Thorny, as we venture into the R&R, two truths are consistent. We love our dear Montana State, and we love great beer. And you know who else feels the same? Jeremiah Johnson Brewing. Brewed in the heart of Montana in downtown Great Falls, Jeremiah Johnson takes Montana's finest ingredients to craft some of Montana's favorite beers. And now, Jeremiah Johnson's second tap room is open in downtown Coeur d'Alene. Their Citra IPA is probably one of my favorites. But we all know, Thorny, you're not the hop lover I am. You're more of a mountain man Scotch ale.
Well, Foley, I'm certainly not a mountain man, but you are right. I do love their Mountain Man Scotch Ale. But come game day, you and I are both cracking their Golden Bobcat Pale Ale. So when you're looking for a quality craft beer brewed with Montana roots, a relaxing tap room, or just a six-pack to take to your favorite Bobcat tailgate, Jeremiah Johnson delivers. Make your next beer a Jeremiah Johnson, and as always, go Cats.
Welcome, everybody, to the R&R Catcast, a fan-based podcast focusing on Montana State athletics. We're two dudes named Ryan from the state of Washington talking about our dear Montana State. We hope you enjoy. All right. Welcome back, Bobcat fans. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the R&R Catcast. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Foley. He's your host, Ryan Thornburg. We are the Ryans of the R&R Catcast, the Montana State affiliate of the Big Sky Podcast Network. And we have a ding sponsor in Jeremiah Johnson brewing awesome beers in downtown Great Falls with a second tap room over in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Thorny, it's been a while, but we are back. You can't keep the Ryans away for long. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. Like, I wasn't really expecting to be back on the mic so soon, but feels good. I'm actually excited to record tonight. Let's go.
Absolutely. All right, let's get after it. Ryan and I thought we'd come on to an episode because, well, we have a special episode coming to you for a third of it.
We're going to talk, maybe a half.
Yeah. So in this off season, we kind of wait until things happen, and then we make it an excuse to make an episode. And we have enough of an excuse to make an episode. We're going to talk about the signing day that happened here on Groundhog's Day, February 2nd. That is today. We'll go over our recruits for the 22 season.
Briefly.
We're excited to talk about them a little bit. Ryan and I have not done extensive research on these dudes, so we'll just go down the list and give you some broad, sweeping narratives about the whole class, how we feel about it, and whatnot. Super exciting stuff. But then we will get into the thing that I'm most excited about, the Super Bowl. Ryan and I are Bengals. I'm a Bengals fan. Thorny is a Rams fan. And it's come down to Foley v. Thorny. Super Bowl 56. It's gonna go down.
Fight
in 2 weekends. We're gonna break down the Super Bowl. You've been calling for it. We're gonna give it to you. We're gonna talk the Super Bowl. So, we're also gonna talk about coaching changes.
There you go.
Have a couple of coaching additions in there. I don't think we have any golden coolie questions.
Not in that order. Super Bowl's last. We'll give you a nice cutoff point last, where we're like, all right, if you don't want to hear any non-Bobcat stuff, go ahead and tune out. So we'll talk Bobcat stuff first, keep you nice and informed there. Maybe talk a little Troy Anderson, maybe. And then we'll get into some nice Super Bowl mano-a-mano stuff, because we both had very good years as football fans, man. It doesn't get any better. I guess it could, but it really doesn't, though, get any better to have all your favorite football teams in the championship games. Come on. And one of us is going to win one. One of us is going to be celebrating our Super Bowl team here in a few weeks.
That's true. I thought about that. We both suffered a loss over in Frisco, but now one of us is going to come out victorious. We won't have to have the low of lows. We both made it to the Super Bowl. Holy cow. Go Bengals.
Go Rams.
Suck it, Rams. Yeah. All right.
Who day.
Who day. And have a good one. All right. Let's get right into it. Let's talk about the signing day. Today is February 2nd. We had the typical signing day. I feel like Thorny, like the December signing day has taken all the shine. And I thought Montana State had kind of a ho-him kind of day for the signing period. What did you think?
Did you say ho-him?
I said ho him. Ho hum.
There you go.
Ho him.
I was like, well, that's one of those things that
there it is.
You say it your entire life, and if someone else says it differently, like, am I wrong? Have I been saying ho hum this whole time? You threw my whole world into question there. It does feel a little ho hum. It's weird how Montana State has been doing it. Most of the signings tend to happen in the early signing period in December. And it's been that way for a few years, especially the Montana kids. Almost all the Montana kids, scholarship kids, seem to sign in December. So we got, I mean, if you're looking at the list here that Victor Flores posted on Twitter, which we're going to use here, I mean, you have 5 today, and there's 2 transfers announced today. There's one that was announced. I'm not sure when Drew Polidor was actually announced, if he was with the December signing class or if he just kind of announced somewhere in between. But most everyone else was the early signing class. So, I mean, yeah, actual February signing class, there's only 2 scholarship players, I think, Jared White and is that it? Is Michael Armstrong scholarship? It's hard to tell these things.
I think he was preferred walk-on. Luke Absher from Spokane's preferred walk-on, and Jaden and Jaron Perkins, I believe, are both preferred walk-on.
So Jared White, the only scholarship player that signed? I assume he's scholarship out of state. I guess I don't know that either.
I think so. One thing I like about the December signing period is that's when you land most of your Montana kids.
Yes,
and that's really fun to track and hear their stories and see all the announcements on Twitter. I don't feel like we even talked about the December signing day.
No, do we want to just run down the players' stats and position real quick? We don't have to give any insight or anything here. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, let's just go for it.
All right, we can start with the Montana kids. I'll take the Montana kids, and then maybe you can take the rest. I don't know, however we want to do. Ethan Abbott, defensive lineman from Florence, Montana, 6'5", 285. He's one of the guys that I think a lot of Bobcat fans are excited about. Then there's the Caden and Taco Dowler. Caden, 6 foot, 190. Billings, Montana, both of them Billings West. And Taco is 5'9", 160. I think Taco is a wide receiver, and Caden is defensive back. Came as obviously a pair there from Billings West. I'm pretty excited about that signing there as well. And then you got Casey Kautzman, a kicker from Butte, Montana, 5'11", 205. I'm not sure if he's a place kicker or a punter. Now that I'm thinking about it, just said
he's a punter.
He said he's a punter. Okay. Then we got Max Kimball from Billings West, 6 foot, 180. We got Ryan. This is going to be hard. Cray, defensive back. Oh man, this is kind of hard to read. This picture actually. I wish I wouldn't be looking at it. 6'1", 205. Great Falls High. Burke Mastel from Red Lodge, 6'4", 290. I think he's one of the more prized Montana recruits right there. Let's see who we got here. Max Murphy, tight end, 6'2", 220 from Billings West. Then we have, we got a lot of Montana kids here. Tommy Nilsson, offensive lineman, 6'3", 255 from Missoula Hellgate. Ryan Schlepp, tight end, 6'4", 230 from Bozeman, Gallatin High. Dylan Snyder, wide receiver, maybe / athlete, I believe, 6'2", 185 from Butte. And then last but not least, Jake Vigen, athlete from Bozeman, Gallatin, 6'2", 200. 2 coaches' sons signed here, which is kind of crazy. We haven't got to Michael Armstrong, but he is B.J. Armstrong's son. So we have, and we've thrown Jory Choate. Now we have three guys on the team that are either coaches' sons of current coaches or former coaches. That's kind of crazy.
I hadn't thought about that.
To go along
Rounding
with 3
up
brothers.
December class. The Perkins brothers, right? Holy smokes. All right, rounding out the December class, we had Christian Anaya, the wide receiver out of Chandler, Arizona, 6'1", 175, a burner. I'm stoked for that kid.
Yes.
Holy cow. All right. Going down, we had Logan Fredrickson, a defensive lineman, 6'3", 210 from Rigby, Idaho. Then we have a kid from Ohio. Look at that, Millbury, Ohio. Connor Moore, offensive line. I don't actually remember hearing about that name, 6'5", 260.
He was kind of a surprise on National Signing Day. His letter of intent came by, and I don't think he was on anyone's radar.
I just want to know who's recruiting in Ohio. I feel like that's the first Ohio recruit we've had.
Yeah, I mean, we had like JP Flynn from Iowa area,
Minnesota. Oh yeah.
But like kids that was like Rob Ash connections back in Iowa. But yeah, it'd be nice to get some more Midwest kids out here for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I imagine we will with our coaching staff. So
You
that's
think?
the out of state in December. And looking up in today, well, Jared White from Frisco, Texas. Gotta wonder if he came to the national championship game, if he was on a radar before then. Who knows, right? We talked about this kid between you and I. 5'10", 195 running back.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that very well could be. He may have seen us playing there. I don't know if he had too many other Division I offers. I know he broke all sorts of records at his high school, so never hurts to have a record-breaking running back on the squad there. See if he'll contribute as a freshman. Why don't you go through the transfers here, since I took so many Montana kids?
It was hard. This picture is really confusing to look at.
It is.
Like
it's all tilted, slanted. So you're trying to like look at the whole line across, and you start to like dip down. Like, wait.
Very professional of us.
Yes.
All right, let's talk about the transfers. We have a wide receiver coming from St. John's, Minnesota, Vista Marietta, a guy named Ravi Alston, 6'3", 205 grad transfer. So he's only going to be here 1 year. I imagine we're looking for one of those guys like Nate Stewart or Lance McCutcheon. He sounds kind of like that body type right there. We have Sean Chambers. You're going to remember that name. He was a Wyoming quarterback. We played him early on game one. He's a 3-time captain, over at Wyoming. And then something happened in the Wyoming program. There was kind of an exodus of some of their stars. I'm interested to hear more about that later on this season, kind of try to piece that together. I don't know if that was a Craig Bowl thing or who knows, just thinking out loud right there.
Yes.
And then we have Drew Polidor, who is a defensive back coming from Air Force. I believe he picked him up.
Yep.
And I believe he signed in December as well. He's 6'1", 175. Sean Chambers, 6'3", 225, a big boy at quarterback.
Yeah, Drew Polidor, I'm actually a little bit intrigued by. 6'1", 175, Katy, Texas guy transferring in. He'll be eligible to play in spring ball. It's going to add some good competition and some good depth. We got some pretty good sized cornerbacks, so it'll be interesting to see how he fits into all that. Maybe he'll move over to safety with the exodus of some of the players graduating in the safety room.
Mm-hmm. Right, Ryan, what do you think about the class overall?
So let's take a look. I want to take a look at the numbers. So we got just one quarterback, one running back, 4 offensive linemen, 4 wide receivers, 2 tight ends, 3 defensive linemen, only 1 linebacker, 4 defensive backs, a kicker, and an athlete. I mean, I don't know how I feel about the class. I know a lot of scholarships were taken up from the December part, but it coming off like a national championship and having the Bobcat Athletic Center, like 2 big feathers in your cap. I don't know. I don't think we signed a single like 3-star recruit here that wasn't the transfer. So, I mean, I don't know if that's good, and it's not necessarily a bad thing because I mean, honestly, if you go back and run the numbers, only about half of our 3-star high school recruits ever actually play any meaningful snaps for the Bobcats. But overall, I don't know. It seems fine on paper. I was a little underwhelmed when I saw it, but I love the amount of Montana kids, and I think we got some real good Montana players, which is always the backbone of the program. And Brent Vigen said as much today. So overall, it's okay. It's a wait and see, as they always are.
Yeah. Coulter Nuanez said it in his program today, and I thought he made a really good point. You don't know about these players. No matter how many stars they have, lack of stars, the only thing that really matters is they stick with it and they don't give up.
It's true.
They have to be able to fail. They have to be able to be not the best and continue to work hard and grind it out and just want it. The guys who want it, who don't give up, they will produce in our program no matter what. The kids who expect to play and then don't get it and then hit that transfer portal, those are the ones who are just going to flame out. It's not going to work out for them. Kids need to have a little bit of adversity in their life and then overcome that and then just ride that momentum for the full time at Montana State.
And so much of, especially FCS football, is finding guys that you project. How do they project? How will they grow into their frame? How do you project their frame? Like, how do you project all these things? That's such a big part of SES football because you can't get guys that are like NFL body ready coming right out of high school. It's a much harder. So, it's really hard to project all that. But I mean, that's what North Dakota State makes their living on. And Brent and Vigen is part of that tree. So hopefully we're employing some of that same strategy here. And we got guys that are going to be committed, that are going to project well and end up being playmakers here down the road. Because in a perfect situation, you don't want a guy to come in and be like a freshman phenom. Because chances are that means why is he even on the field at all? Because he shouldn't be, because you should have depth and players there already. So hopefully it's a class built for the future. And, we'll see what happens in a couple years down the road.
Another thing I would just say, too, is you can't measure want to. Some of these kids I look like at Logan Fredrickson, 6'3", 210 as a defensive lineman. I mean, 210 is not a defensive lineman. How bad is that kid going to want it, right? What's he going to do in order to get on the field? He's going to be a story to follow. Who knows? You look at those guys who are undersized right now, and in 4 years, we're talking about All-Americans. A lot of the time, those are the gems of the stories where we get to go, oh my gosh, did you see that guy coming along? No, we didn't. But being a Bobcat means something to him, right?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. And that does mean a lot to especially those Montana guys, preferred walk-on guys. You see that all the time. Both Montana schools always end up with guys that are like All-Americans or all-conference preferred walk-ons. It almost always happens. But then you look at a guy like Jared White. We were his only Division I offer. If you saw his committed tweet, how many likes and retweets from friends and family that were so excited for him. Like, the guy just wanted to play Division I football, man. He is stoked to be a Bobcat. He's excited to be a Division I football player because he thinks he can play at that level, and no one else gave him the chance. So, I mean, those are the kinds of guys that could come in and contribute as well, just because he's not a Montana kid, but man, he wants to be a Division I athlete. And he has a big chip on his shoulder. I mean, all these, you never know what with a guy, kind of guy's work ethic and his want to, like you said. You never know.
Absolutely.
Like Justice Perkins, for example. Good example of that.
You're right. The guy that earned scholarship, and now he has two brothers, preferred walk-ons. Wouldn't that be pretty wild if all of Perkins' brothers were playing on the line at one time?
It would be wild. I wouldn't bet against a Perkins at this point, though, if they're all got the same kind of fire Justice has. Kind of a funny side note here. So it's Justice, Jaden, and Jaron. And then we signed Jaden and Jaron today, and then Jared. So all of a sudden, like on Bobcat Nation, you had Jaden Perkins, Jared Perkins, and Jaron Perkins, and Jaden White, or Jared White. See, I can't even get it straight trying to say it. It's kind of funny, all the similar names that came through real fast here. Just kind of funny little note there. But anything else you want to say about this 2022 Bobcat class?
Nope. It's good to see a lot of Montana kids. Again, it just all depends on what type of work they're willing to put in and how they respond to adversity.
All right. Well, moving over to the coaching news, we had a couple coaching vacancies because how did this work out? So we had, obviously, Freddie Banks went to Colorado State, and he took Adam Pilapil with him. Like a guy that was here for 1 year and I never really saw much or heard about, but he took him with him to Colorado State, which left a defensive line spot. Now I'm a little confused because, all right, so what's happened here? What's been announced? Tyler Walker has been elevated to the MSU tight ends and fullbacks coach. Did we have an actual fullbacks coach before? Like, obviously we've had fullbacks, and I'm sure they've been coaching them, obviously, but the actual in the title. A fullbacks coach. Can't be a whole lot of programs in the country that have a fullbacks coach. But Tyler Walker, who's been the director of football recruiting for the past year, I think he's a pretty new guy to the program himself, is elevated to tight ends coach. So congratulations to Tyler Walker, the new tight ends coach and fullbacks coach, which is awesome. But does that still leave like an assistant defensive line position available, or is that not going to be filled? Because I think that's Sean Howe is obviously the defensive line coach. I'm a little confused on this now. Are there any more job openings?
I don't know. I feel like in the summertime we might pick up an assistant here or there.
Good. You could. Tucker Rovig, grad assistant.
Stating it here. Tucker Rovig coming back.
Defensive line coach. Assistant defensive line. Assistant to the defensive line. All right. So congratulations, Tyler Walker. But of course, the big hire that everyone's kind of talking about, but actually kind of quiet about, which is a little bit interesting. The Willie Mack Garza was hired as the defensive coordinator by Brent Vigen. They know each other from their time at North Dakota State from 2005 to 2008. And again, briefly in 2019 at Wyoming. And I believe there's some other crossover with maybe Sean Howe back at USC or maybe Dixie State. But more or less, it's the Brent Vigen connection in North Dakota State. So he has a lot of experience. He started coaching in 1994, which puts him, I don't know how old he is, but obviously he's been around a long time. If you look at his resume, there's about 20 stops on it in 27 years or so. He's gone the Jeff Choate route where he doesn't stay anywhere for more than about 4 years. What are your initial thoughts on this hire?
I have no thoughts on Willie Mack Garza. It's one of those names that when I heard it, I was like, I feel like I've heard that name before. And then I realized we hired an old guy who's been around the block a couple of times. I guess now that I think about it, I'm not too excited about it. I feel like I don't like hiring old, third, fourth, like you said, 20 stop guys who are filling coordinator positions. I just don't feel like that's been my preferred hires for Montana State.
I mean, someone who's older in his career is going to give you the best chance to stability, most likely. Young and up and coming coaches, if they're worth their salt, they're going to be gone after two or 3 years tops.
Stability. Look at the guy's track record,
yeah,
Thorny. You said it yourself. He had 20 stops. Stability? Are you kidding me?
Well, I mean, it's a young guy like Freddie Banks is not stable either. I mean, you got to pick your poison here. I think the guy this late in his career might stick around for 3 years. At this point, 3 years is stable. That's as stable as it gets for a job like Montana.
I think you and I were both hoping for Bobby Daly on this one.
I think we were. I would have been happy with Bobby Daly. I would have been happy with another internal promotion. I think Sean Howe could have been an okay hire as well. I think Bobby Daly deserves it ahead of anybody. But we had a couple good candidates, I thought, internally. So this one was definitely out of left field when I saw Willie Mack Garza, who is apparently like a Texas Longhorn legend, a legend down in Texas high school football and all this stuff. Like, obviously, that doesn't mean anything to me. Some guy who played at Texas in the early 90s. I was barely watching football at that point in my life, So, there's got to be some good Texas connections there. But yeah, when I Googled him, it was like McNeese safeties coach is our new defensive coordinator. Like McNeese State, McNeese State hasn't been good for a few years. And why are we hiring a guy all the way down in Louisiana? It just seemed out of the left field to me. So, but I've done some research on him, and I think he's a heck of a coach. He's had a few stumbling blocks along the way, self-induced stumbling blocks that may have hindered his career. I don't know if we want to get into those. I don't think we need to get into those, but it's probably a reason that he's still hanging around this level of football. And it's, but I've heard nothing but good things about his coaching abilities. And I think he might try and run the same kind of defense, the 4-2-5. I don't know that for sure. We'll talk more about Willie Mack Garza when spring ball kicks around and we actually kind of see what's going on there. But, that's just kind of the rundown and my initial thoughts. Like, kind of like you. I was like, I guess, here we go. We'll give that a try for a change. Jeff Choate was all about hiring younger guys, with the exception of like Courtney Messingham, who he like rescued from like an analyst job at like Iowa State and fired him halfway through his first season. Then he went on to like North Dakota State, and now he's like an FBS coordinator down at like Kansas State or whatever.
Bob Cole was the other guy he hired.
Bob Cole. Yeah, that does sound familiar. Bob Cole. He did give
a couple. One that was
so actually, you might be right. He might have given like Courtney Messingham and then Bob Cole, and then he's like, you know what? Enough with these older dogs that I can't teach new tricks to. Let's get a guy in here like Matt Miller who's never called a play in his life. You're it, buddy. But
you're it.
We've had a string of young coaches, so it'll be interesting to kind of go back to the other direction of it. But I've heard he's basically an older Freddie Banks in his personality, his approach. I've heard that.
Really?
So, yeah.
From who?
From my sources, Foley.
Well, that's a good thing because that's one thing that was like on my mind. If I don't know anything about Willie Mack Garza, but one thing I was hoping is that he does have that Freddie Banks approach. Freddie Banks, what we learned from him was a player's coach. And I think that's important to have a player's coach and also have a deep understanding of this defense. And I know Coach Vigen was going to hire someone who knows the 4-2-5 defense. So if Willie Matt Garza is a savant in that, then, that fits that bill. But for me, the most important thing was, is he going to be able to galvanize the guys like Freddie Banks did? Because that to me was the sauce that Freddie Banks had that made him special. He was the guy that made our defense believe, but also made them play it fast. He simplified things for them. So if Garza can do the same thing, that's a good thing.
Yeah, and kind of keep the same mold, the same kind of connection with the players. I think it's always good. Age doesn't define how much like energy and vim and all that stuff that you have necessarily. It does sometimes, but some guys are just ageless in that way.
Yeah. I know. You look across the divide, they have a whole bunch of old farts over there coaching. But
and it's working out.
That's been the case for them.
It's working out, yeah. And that's a stable staff over there because those guys are like all on their last stop, basically. Like, let's get the band back together one last time situation over Missoula. We got a mix of both at the moment. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm okay with the hire. Time will tell. As it does with the signing class. Maybe I'm underwhelmed. Maybe I'll be surprised. We'll see.
It is so hard for us. You and I just sitting in Washington State, just looking on the internet, trying to mine through information about this stuff. We have no clue.
We don't. We have no connections. We don't get to interview these people. I bet if we interviewed Willie Matt Garza, we'd have a whole different opinion of him. But we're not going to.
Maybe
we don't. I mean, maybe at the media days we will have an opportunity. Actually, it's only the head coach last time, wasn't it?
Yeah,
because Freddie Banks, Taylor House weren't in. So we probably will never get to interview a coordinator at Montana State. I'm sure we could if we really wanted to, but that's just not what we're going for here. We don't want to be interviewing current players or current coaches necessarily. It's just not our business model. So that would change our opinion, I'm sure of them, but we'll never actually meet them. So it's a lot harder to form an opinion when all you do is like read articles and tweets and stuff like that.
All right.
Shall we?
I think it's time, Ryan.
The brawl of the Ryans.
What do you want?
The brawl of the Ryans. I just made that up, right? So if you're only here to listen to Bobcat content, now's probably a good time to tune out because we're going to shift to some NFL talk. A first in the R&R Cat Guys history where we're actually going to talk something like a serious subject, not just like beer, because beer is obviously not related to Montana State, but we're going to talk a whole subject, a whole 15, 20, 30 minutes, I have no idea, about not Montana State football or athletics in any way, shape, or form. So if that's your bag, thanks for listening. Catch you next time. But now we're shifting gears. It's go time. Bengals, Rams, Super Bowl. That's crazy, man.
Woo!
How crazy is this?
Yes, let's go. Man, let's first talk about our fandom. All right. I know we talked early on this before we started getting onto this podcast. We need to talk about why we are the fans we are for these teams. I will go first. I grew up.
I just want to interject
my father
real quick here, though, before you go into that. It's so random growing up in Montana, man. Like, how do you pick a team? And that's why it's so funny. That's why each of us have such different stories. But go ahead.
That is a good point, Ryan. I think a lot of us root for the teams that our fathers root for, and that's what happened with me. My dad his roots are in Ohio. My dad grew up in Ohio, outside of Dayton, Ohio, in a place called Fairborn, Ohio. And he grew up a Reds fan, a Cincinnati fan. So we rooted for the Reds, the Bengals. My dad eventually went to Montana State, Ohio State. He got drafted into the war. He came back, went to Wright State, played a little baseball for Wright State. And then ironically, he got transferred or something happened at Wright State. He was academically ineligible. That's what my dad was a really good student, but he dropped a class or something and made him academically ineligible. And he moved out to Great Falls, Montana, where he met my mom. Because I think the Air Force took him out there. He ended up finishing his degree at University of Great Falls. Actually did a semester in Missoula. My dad always recanted that. He's like, it was the worst decision he said he made was going to a semester over in Missoula. Anyways, my dad's Ohio roots
locations.
Yeah, I know, right? So my dad claims Ohio State. So where famously he says for him, like his biggest twinkle in his eye about Ohio State was he was at the top of his class in his major. Anyways, my dad's not with us anymore, but he still lives on for sure.
Sure.
Anyways,
real quick question: where's Wright State at?
Wright State, I believe, it might be in Dayton.
So it's in Ohio then.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't even know that. Like I didn't know if it was in Ohio.
Yeah.
Just okay.
My dad was a pitcher, and he got to play on the baseball game on Wright State. I think they're the Dragons. No, not the Dragons. Wright State, something else. Anyways, I'm thinking of Dayton Dragons, Wright State, something else. Wright State, I'll think of it later. Anyways, grew up as a Bengals fan. I remember living in Ohio. We did a stint in Ohio. I was probably living in Ohio from when I was like probably 3 or 4 to maybe 6. And so I grew up a Bengals fan. And I remember back then, Boomer Esiason, the Bengals were good. Actually, in 1988, when I was living in Ohio, I grew up, my birthday was in 82. The Bengals went to the Super Bowl, and they played the San Francisco 49ers. Mm-hmm. They've only played prior to this Super Bowl, 2 other Super Bowls, 1981 and 1988. The seasons of those, both of them were losses to the San Francisco 49ers. But one of my first memories, Ryan, actually, and I'll end on this, is I remember looking at a paper in our house, like a newspaper, and it showed you how to do the Icky Woods shuffle. I couldn't read, but I could see the pictures. Yeah, and I was like, "Oh, that's the Icky shuffle." To the left, to left, to the right, to right. And slam it down, right? So, my whole life I've been a Bengals fan, which has been to the ire of many. I've been a punchline of many jokes. But man, what a run! I mean, we'll get into it, but how are you a Rams fan? I know you have some St. Louis teams you root for.
So punching bag, it's funny because if not for the 1999 Rams Super Bowl season where they went like 14-2, I don't remember their record exactly. The Rams would have likely had the worst record in the 90s, but thanks to that magical run, the Bengals, I believe, were the losingest team in the 1990s. So we were right there in misery for most of our childhood. So your story is way more interesting, way more like it's got more sentiment than mine. I think honestly, I started becoming a Ram fan base because I like the colors in the logo. I have no good like, oh, my dad was a Rams fan. I believe my dad was a Raiders fan growing up. So we moved to Phoenix in 1986. I would have been 3 or 4. I was really young. We moved back to Montana in like 1989 or 1990. It's been about 4 years down there. So I actually went to some Phoenix Cardinals game. I went to like an Orange Bowl and lots of Phoenix Suns games. Those are the only 2 sports.
Is that why you're Suns fans?
So yeah, that is why I'm a Phoenix Suns fan still. But I never really got attached to the Cardinals for some reason. And there was no Phoenix Coyotes and there was no Arizona. What the hell's the Diamondbacks? There was no. Those were the only 2 sports franchises back then in the late 80s. For some reason, the Suns stuck with me, but the Cardinals didn't. So we moved back. I remember my earliest memory of rooting for the Rams is about when Jim Everett was quarterback. So it'd be like 1989 or 1990. And I don't know why. I have no idea why I became a Rams fan. I know my dad switched over to the Cardinals from living in Phoenix, as you should. Like, you live in a city, you should be a fan of the professional sports team, unless you just have some deep organic ties. But yeah, just became a Rams fan, man. I don't really know why. I love the Rams all the way back. They were LA at the first time around. Obviously, as an adult, I wouldn't prefer to pick an LA sports franchise. I was pretty upset when they moved back to LA. It's like, dang it, now I root for the Los Angeles team. Man, that's feel dirty a little bit. That's the closest I ever came from switching. But yeah, just a Rams fan, just because I like the colors and the logo way back in the day. Maybe the name of the Rams. I named a cat growing up Ramsey because of the Rams. So
that is some dedication. But I knew you had I know you like the St. Louis Blues as well.
And it could be the same color pattern, to be honest with you. And the note thing, I thought was really cool. I like seeing I still have like an old Blues jersey with they had like red, blue, and yellow, just crazy '90s colors going on, like Brett Hull and all those like Grant Fuhr and all the great St. Louis Blues players in the '90s. So I became a Blues fan, but I was actually a Rams fan in LA. So they moved to St. Louis, so I ended up liking two blue and gold St. Louis teams. It just kind of worked out that way. That it wasn't planned. I'm like, I'm just gonna like every single St. Louis team there is. It's not how it worked out. They moved to St. Louis when I was already a fan.
Well, I mean, when we talk baseball, you have a loose affiliation with the Orioles.
Very
you
loose.
Would think the Cardinals, but the Orioles out of all the teams, right? But I don't feel bad for you one bit because your Suns, your Rams, the Bobcats now, you're like you said, you are in the golden age.
I'm in a golden age of sports championships, man. The Blues won the Stanley Cup, I think 2019, just a couple years ago. The Rams were in the Super Bowl in like 2019 or 2018. Now they're back again. The Bobcats made it to the national championship. The Suns lost in the NBA Finals last year, 4-2 to the Milwaukee Bucks, and they have the best record in the NBA right now. I'm hoping they get back. Like, man, what is happening? My teams have been garbage for my whole life. Like the Bobcats were, ever since I became a fan, were pretty okay, but never like threatening to win a national championship. The Rams were awful for most of my life. They had that from like 99 to 2004, the Rams were good. And then all the way from 2004 all the way up until Sean McVay was like 2-14 every year. So, man, it's a good time to be a fan of my sports franchises, and I'm just trying to enjoy it.
So we were driving down to Richland. We went over to my wife's brother's house this weekend, kind of did a little staycation down there. Got a 3-day weekend, semester break over here. And it dawned on me when we were driving down, because we were going to watch the football games with his brother. I was like, holy cow, there's a possibility that the Bengals and the Rams are going to the Super Bowl, meaning Foley v. Thorny. We're going to have this
our
spat
VR
between us. Yeah. We're going to have this spat between us. And since the AFC title game and the NFC title game, I seen that you have launched a full-on attack on me on Twitter with memes and pictures and calling me out.
What have I done?
Being a Bengals fan, Skyline Chili, socks.
Those are cool socks. You don't want those socks? That was not smack talk.
I would love those socks.
You love Skyline Chili and the Bengals. I was thinking of you.
All I'm saying is I rarely get on Twitter anymore, and then I get on there and I have like all these notifications, and I look at them, and it's Thorny just giving me full on.
There's a few memes maybe where we've had a couple people tag us and like, are you guys going to do a Super Bowl episode because of your team affiliations? And I responded to one of them. I remember the meme from Napoleon Dynamite where Napoleon like slaps his brother Kiff and just runs off. So there may have been a couple little smacky memes, but man, that's not an all out offensive. You would know if it was an all out offensive. All right. So,
wow.
But
I think it's pretty cool, man.
It's awesome, man. Like, how cool is it that we got to celebrate it? We got to go to a national championship game together in Frisco to see the Bobcats, and now we get to watch both our teams square off against each other in the Super Bowl. Pretty amazing. This will never happen again. This will never happen again. All three teams, no.
Yeah, it will. I'm not going to say never because there is definitely momentum on all of our teams' fronts. I would say
the Rams.
Bengals. Yeah, I think the Rams window is closing. They're an older.
They
team.
went all in, man. It's Super Bowl or bust for the Rams. They got like no draft picks left. They got nothing. Once this year is over, it's going to be just so bad.
Yeah, I was jokingly talking to you. It feels like the Rams are like you said, the Lakers of the NFL world, where they just, hey, you're really good. We can buy you. You want to come over here? We'll pay you enough money to come win a championship. Whereas the Bengals, much more organic. We had 2-win season, a 4-win season. We drafted Joe Burrow, number 1 in the draft. Drafted Jamar Chase because we only had 4 wins that next season. Yeah, Bengals are young. I mean, when I think of Bengals, like, we'll just kind of talk about like the Bengals right now. I think of like right now, they just have like a swagger. They have a confidence. I love Zach Taylor. Zach Taylor he was on the chopping block for 2 years. Like, I think if they didn't have Mike Brown as their owner, Zach Taylor would have been gone last year because he only had 6 wins in 2 years, right? I mean, that's not good. Joe Burrow had his horrific knee injury, MCL, ACL, PCL, all of it on that high-low hit. Yeah. In 2020, I think that was 2020. It wouldn't have been 2021 quite yet. Anyways, yeah, these Bengals, man, they're too young to know about the post Bengals just suckiness for decades now. They don't care about that because these guys are coming out of LSU. You got Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. I mean, not all of LSU, but these guys just, I love the narrative that they're saying. They're like, I'm tired of the underdog. We're a good team. We're here to make some noise. And it's just really refreshing because as a lifelong Bengals fan who's been just beat down for so long, it's been hard to believe, but they're starting to make me believe. And now we're in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's been
really cool.
It's been an exciting year for the Bengals. Their regular season, what now? So I'm going to go ahead and lay something out here. I'm not as nearly as big an NFL fan as I am FCS Bobcat football fan. So I'm going to have to ask some like rudimentary questions here and there. The Bengals regular season wasn't that good, was it? Weren't they like 10-7?
Correct.
So they snuck in, or they're the 4 seed. So who was like how many seeds are there in the NFL nowadays? I think that's a really dumb question because they expanded the playoffs, didn't they?
They did this year, and I don't know that answer.
So I know it's the first time in NFL or Super Bowl history that there hasn't been at least a 3 seed on either side of the game. So that's kind of a crazy stat. But the Rams literally lost a regular season finale in overtime to the Niners after being up like 24-7 or something at halftime. They almost lost. They lost that game, and they almost lost the Bucs game in the same manner, where they came out and just pounded the team, and then like completely let up and almost lost the game and completely collapsed. They did lose the game. They would have been the number 2 seed if they hadn't lost that game, and that was actually the game that the Niners made the playoffs because of that win. So I think it's kind of 2 different narratives. They're both 4 seeds, but the Rams are really like should have been a 2 seed. So it's a little bit different in that regard. But yeah, 2 teams that are relative underdogs. I don't think many people gave the Rams a chance to beat the Bucs in Tampa Bay, and especially didn't come out and smack them around the way they did. They almost lost that game, but it's pretty cool to see. Just not the teams that I think everyone would have penciled in the beginning of the year to be Super Bowl champ or playing in the Super Bowl. Just how everyone drew it up, right? Bengals and Rams. Nobody drew that up.
Thorny, I quickly right here, I found a stat today that the Bengals had 125-1 odds in the preseason to make the Super Bowl.
I heard they had like the second to worst odds in the NFL. Is that what you're saying there too? I think it was only like the Lions had worse odds to make the Super Bowl. Jared Goff.
Yeah, there's some people cashing in on the Bengals right now for sure.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, I'll put some money on that. Who cares if I lose $20 on that? You're like, sweet. Cash that in, right?
So how do the Bengals go on their little playoff run here? I want to get your perspective.
Well, you know, they started with the Raiders. We had the Raiders at home. The Raiders were that last team to get in. And so we hosted them, and we had a 26-19 win against the Raiders. That was huge because Montana State, the Bengals.
Right? It's so weird. We're talking not Montana State. It's going to default to that, I'm sure.
That was the win where it felt like demons had been cast out. Because Montana,
a monkey tossed off the back, if you will.
Exactly.
As we talk about the Bobcats all year,
there's been a little bit of in the media. They call it the Cincinnati curse. It goes through the Bengals. It goes through the Bengals and the Reds. Basically, any professional sports team in Cincinnati has this kind of curse they've talked about where they don't win a postseason series. And I mean, I can go back, talk about like the Giants versus the Reds in the playoffs, and where everything comes down to a couple outs, and then we hit like muff a ground ball. I don't even want to go through it. Or Giovanni Bernard, fumbling against the Steelers in 2015 when the game was wrapped up, and then Vontaze Burfict gets a personal foul. Against, oh my gosh, there's been times where I've cried as a Cincinnati fan, where it's just really broken my heart. And so to win one game, just cast out all that negativity. Like I said, those demons that haunted Cincinnati just was cast out.
When's the last time the Bengals had won a playoff game prior to that?
1988.
Really?
Yeah, man. I think so.
That's crazy.
it was a long time. And that's kind of like the joke about Cincinnati sports is it just breaks your heart over and over again.
But the chili's good.
Yeah, the chili's good, right? So that one, there's a cool thing about that to win too is Coach Zach Taylor gives out the game balls afterwards. He started giving out game balls to the city, and he's making this a thing they do every year. Every time they win a playoff game now, instead of some establishment, a bar gets a game ball from the Bengals. It's for the fans. So there's picture of him. Yeah, there's not a picture, a video of him going to, I don't know, some bar in Cincinnati after the playoff game and against the win against the Raiders, and he's there with Kevin Huber, who is a punter and longtime placeholder for the Bengals, and they're giving the ball to the bar, and they're like, "This one's for you. This is for the city. This is for the Bengals fans who's been here for the thick and thin." And he talks about this is what we're gonna do. This is the tradition that is starting every playoff win now. The balls are going out to whoever earns it in the team, but also the Cincinnati fans. I think that's really cool.
That is cool. Like you got to reward a passionate fan base who's suffered for so long. That's a cool thing to do. And I've always had a soft spot in my heart. I've always liked the Bengals a lot. Actually, they've always been borderline second or third favorite team. So. Really? I'd be rooting for the Bengals easily if it weren't for the fact they're playing the Rams. Bengals and Browns. I've always liked the Browns too. Something about that orange color palette. Just I like it, I guess. But I've always liked the Bengals, man. So it'll be. I mean, I've always liked underdogs. I guess part of it too. So that's maybe why I was attracted to the Rams, because they were garbage, and I liked that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Michael, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Maybe, I don't know if you know this. The Rams this year, especially against the Niners, man, I don't know if you watched the playoff game against the Niners, but it happened in the regular season too. There was almost as many, if not more, Niners fans in the stands in SoFi Stadium. Are the Bengals, will there be more Bengal fans than Rams fans in Los Angeles, even though it's a home game? I think there may be more Bengals fans.
I don't know, man. Those tickets are so expensive. Who is it saying that they're like between $5,000 and $20,000? $5,000 and $20,000. Is that correct?
I don't even care. My grandpa went to like the second Super Bowl ever, and he paid like $20 for a ticket or something.
Yeah.
Which back then, obviously, is more money, but
my father-in-law went to the first. It was like his claim. He's like, I went to the first Super Bowl. I was like, no way.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, the Super Bowls are not that old. I mean, they're not.
No, they're not. It's kind of crazy. Yeah, I mean, plenty of people are alive for all of them.
There's a parallel between the Bengals and Tom Brady and the Rams. Let me lay this out for you. So Tom Brady, he was the youngest quarterback to win a Super Bowl at 24 and a half.
Against the stupid Rams?
Against the Rams. His first one. Now Joe Burrow comes in, who's 25. There's a little bit of parallel there. The whole Joe Burrow narrative could be, you fill in the blank right there, right? So there could be something there.
It could be, man. Like, making the Super Bowl is so much harder to do than people, I think, realize, man. Like Dan Marino, perfect example, makes the Super Bowl like his like rookie year, I believe, Miami.
Yeah.
Never goes again. Never makes it back to the Super Bowl, ever. One of the best quarterbacks in the history of the NFL. Like, it's crazy. Like, it's harder to get there than you think it is. And hopefully it's the first of many for like Joe Burrow and company, but hopefully his first win's not up soon, because you got a guy who a lot of people are also rooting for in the kind of the opposite respect, man. Matt Stafford has been on a, you talk about like Cincinnati curses, man. Like, what about Detroit? They've had such good players over the years. Like Barry Sanders, like Matt Stafford's got like 50,000 passing yards or something in his career. And he's never won a playoff game, period, before he came to Los Angeles. I don't know if that's an indictment of Detroit, or if it's Matt Stafford needed like everything else in place to be a good quarterback in the first place. I don't really know. But the point is, like, there's that storyline of Matt Stafford finally getting his chance to win a Super Bowl ring. But then a guy like Aaron Donald, who's been dominant, one of the most dominant players defensively the NFL has ever seen, he doesn't have a ring. So like, there's a lot of cool storylines in this one. I think there's a lot of things that people can root for. Obviously, I think most people would be rooting for the Bengals because they're big underdogs, and LA is just a LA sports franchise, and they signed all these superstars and stuff. But there's a lot of cool storylines, I think, to get behind. There's no like evil team here yet, because neither team has won enough to truly be like an evil empire. The Rams are closer to that, obviously, but they haven't won a Super Bowl in 20 years. They've only made it to one Super Bowl since then, or I guess two Super Bowls since the 1999-2000 Super Bowl season.
Yeah, the last one, I think you guys only scored 3 points.
Yeah, that was that super like 16-3 loss or whatever to the Patriots. Real barn burner, real exciting Super Bowl. The Jared Goff show, who is now a Detroit Lion. Man.
Hey, Thorny. I have some buy or sell questions on the Super Bowl. How about we end this episode with some buy or sell?
Well, and we got to make predictions, man. We got to. We're not doing like Bobcat stuff. We can totally do a full prediction on this. I want to. It'll be fun. But right. I don't. Yeah, go ahead. Hit me.
All right. So, well, let's put it this way. Do you have anything else that you wanted to talk about? Because I'm going to hit on some major topics on the buy or sell.
Like actual football topics?
Yeah, and you knew we were going to talk about the Super Bowl today. Is there anything else you want to bring up before we get into the buy or sell?
I mean, I just had a question for you. I don't know if it'll pertain to your buy or sells or not. I just want to know, do you think the Bengals need to play their best game to win?
No, I don't.
How are you feeling about this game? We haven't even talked about like the matchups at all.
Yeah,
we don't need to get into details, but how are you feeling about
I think
the prognostications of this?
So everybody's saying that the Bengals is a Cinderella story, right? That's kind of a narrative that's easy to latch onto. Joe Burrow, the whole Bengals team, is going to tell you just the opposite. They believe it, and they've got me believing too. Like they said. Look, I mean, think about this, Ryan. They beat the AFC champion, the Kansas City Chiefs. Their second best team now. They beat the Kansas City Chiefs twice in 1 month.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's pretty impressive.
I mean, come on, like they continue to just make plays. That's the cool thing about it is I see a little bit of parallel. I'll bring it back to the Bobcats right now. I see a little bit of parallel between the Bobcats and the Bengals, where they just believe. They got guys on the team. They're like, you know what? We're just going to go make a play. And the cool thing I really like about the Bengals, Thorny, I follow them on Instagram. I follow them on their socials. The culture of that team, the way that Zach Taylor has crafted that team, it is a brotherhood. And when you see that at a professional level and you hear guys say, this is the best locker room I've ever been a part of, that's a special thing. And I love that because I'm such a culture guy. So I've bought in to the Bengals thing. I'm still hesitant because I've endured 20 plus, 30 plus years of just like, hey, Bengals suck. You're just always waiting for the other shoe to drop. But these guys are too young, too brash, too confident to care about any of that. They're like, no, we win. That's who we are. So when you ask me, what do I feel about this? I feel confident because every week they just continue to win. They were down at one point against the Chiefs, 21-3. They came back. They had 11-point deficit in going into halftime. And say what you want. We held Patrick Mahomes to 3 points after halftime in 2 straight games. And I think he only had like 80-some yards of passing in the second half as well. Our defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo, makes fantastic adjustments. I think just the confidence our players have is fantastic. They believe they're going to win. They believe that this is not just a possibility, but like, hey, this is going to happen. The thing that gives me pause is our offensive line versus your defensive line. I mean, that's the big story in the national media right now. But when it comes down to it, I just go, yeah, I feel like the Bengals are probably going to win this game because they continue to prove me that they will win. So that's how I feel.
So if you want to go back to this analogy, do you believe it's like Bobcats versus kind of a North Dakota State situation, or the Rams?
No.
In the SU, obviously they're not near as dominant, but
no,
they have the star power. They have I think they're favorites, 3.5-point favorites from what I've seen. Are you worried about some sort of buzzsaw where the Rams have coaches that have coached in the Super Bowl? The Rams have players that have played in Super Bowl on multiple teams. They have all sorts of experience in these kinds of games.
Well, if that was the case, I would have felt like NDSU was more like the Chiefs than the Rams.
Yeah,
we already conquered that hurdle. So I don't feel as nervous for this game. I thought the Chiefs were, I'll just put it this way. I say the Chiefs are better than the Rams.
They could be. It could be. That doesn't mean the matchup isn't better for the Rams.
Good point.
The Rams might match up better with the Bengals than the Chiefs.
Yeah, well, the Bengals gave up 9 sacks against the Titans and still won that game.
Yeah.
And the
Rams have better offense than the Titans.
Yeah, and they have a better defensive line as well. And so that's a huge concern for me. It's like, I mean, you're looking at Aaron Donald, Von Miller, you got another guy on there. They're just going to wreck shop.
Leonard Floyd.
Yeah, exactly. Leonard Floyd.
The big three that you talk about when you talk about the Rams defensive linemen.
And our offensive line sucks. Like, that's the biggest thing. After this year, they're going to go all in on the offensive line, protect Joe Burrow. I mean, he's the franchise. Like, you got to protect that guy. How we adjust for that, whether it's a short passing game, trying to get the ball out quick. I don't know. I listened to podcasts on it yesterday. There's a couple things they can do. That's going to be a challenge for the Bengals for sure.
The Rams defensive line, I think Aaron Donald, as I hate to say it as a Rams fan, is past his prime. He is on the decline. So? Yes, I think he's on the decline. Now, he's still an elite player. This is the first year that I've watched Aaron Donald play in years where I'm like, he's a little bit human. There's a little, he's losing the slightest of steps. But I also believe that he realizes that this could be his last chance to win a Super Bowl. So I think he is going to get fired up. He's going to play the game of his life. But my biggest fear is that the Rams don't get any pressure on Joe Burrow. They got, up until that last drive, they got nowhere near Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, they were nowhere near him. They had like 3 knockdowns the entire game. 0 sacks and like 3 knockdowns all the way up until like the last drive. Like, he was just untouched. Now, they weren't really blitzing or anything, but the Rams just couldn't get anywhere near him. The offensive line for San Francisco is very good, but
yeah,
I don't know. That's my fear. But I'm feeling pretty good about this game myself too. Like, the Rams, when they turn it on, are one of the best teams in the NFL, if not the best team in the NFL. The problem is they just can't sustain that for an entire game, and they've proven that. Sure. They jump out and smoke teams, and then they just let off the gas, and then they completely fall apart and almost blow games. You saw that in Tampa Bay. They came out and just pounced on them. And then they took like a last-second miracle throw by Matt Stafford to Cooper Kupp to line up a field goal to win the game, right? And then a regulation, like, any more time, that game's over. If that happens and there's still a minute left on the clock, the Rams lose. Like, in my mind, like, that's the only way the Rams could have won, is the way that they did win with the way that game was going, because they kept fumbling everything. It was a complete team collapse. But when the Rams are on, man, they're really hard to beat. They have a lot of firepower on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, they can be very good, but they don't have a very good linebacking core. So I don't know about the Bengals. I don't know what kind of offense they run, but the Rams linebackers aren't stellar in the secondary. Actually, with some injuries, I mean, we had to bring Eric Weddle out of retirement, for crying out loud, who played pretty well. Don't get me wrong, but he was a very, very good player, but he's been out of the league for 2 years. That just tells you how the depth of the secondary has been for the Rams. They bring back a retired player to go alongside Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah, I was gonna say you have Jalen Ramsey, but besides that, I'm not too worried about that. That's the thing the Bengals have in spades is just their offensive weapons. I mean, they're going to try to take away Jamar Chase, which they should because Jamar Chase is just the dude. But then you have to deal with T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, CG Uzama. Hopefully, can come back from his knee injury. I'm not sure if he does or not, but Joe Burrow has proven over and over again when you take away one, well, right on. Let's let the others feast, and so that's something that gives me a little bit of just encouragement as a Bengals fan for sure.
The last thing I want to say before we go on, biggest positives for the Rams' success, some of the biggest reasons for me is the emergence of Odell Beckham Jr., who came in. They signed him because Robert Woods, one of their top targets, I think he tore his ACL. I don't remember what it was, but he's out for the season. Nicknamed Bobby Trees, Robert Woods, kind of a funny nickname. But he got hurt, and Beckham kind of worked his way in. Like, is it going to work? Is a guy like a big personality, big media guy like Beckham going to fit into Sean McVay's system? And it took some time, but he had 9 receptions for 113 yards. His first 100-yard receiving game since 2019 against the Niners. So he's really come back on strong. Cam Akers, the best running back the Rams have, came back from an ACL tear and played really well. He got dinged up a little bit against San Francisco, but man, we signed Stoney Michel from the Patriots because we were so depleted at running back all year long. So the Rams have gotten healthy in some ways. They got some new players that came in gelling. So I think the Rams are kind of coming together offensively at the right time. I actually think this is going to be a pretty high scoring game.
You think so?
I think it's going to be a high scoring game.
See, I don't think so. I think it's going to be limited by the pass rush from the Rams. I think we're going to have to get the ball out really early. And I also think you're probably underestimating the Bengals defense. The Bengals defense is probably the number one key why we're in the Super Bowl. If you look in the past couple of weeks, we made strategic adjustments in the halftime of each of those games. And we've had takeaways to end the games to set us up for those Evan McPherson field goals, all 3 of them. So I would predict, let's hold off on predictions. Okay. I want to get to these buyer sales. Okay. I have a couple of buyer sales, and I think they're going to be some good questions.
Let's do it.
All right. Thorny, buyer sell. Is it fair that the Rams have their home locker room for the Super Bowl? They do at SoFi Stadium. I heard it today. They will be in their home locker room. There's 2 home locker rooms in SoFi Stadium. The Chargers and the Rams, they get their own locker room for the Super Bowl. Buy or sell? That's fair.
So let me ask you: Are the Bengals declared the home team?
Right? They are.
So I guess not. I guess it's not fair, but I don't think it really matters, though.
Oh, you don't think it matters at all?
A state-of-the-art facility like that with 2, you're going to get the Chargers home team, man. It's not like it's a dump.
It's just an advantage that they have is all I'm saying.
No one's ever won.
I'm going to say that right now. I'm going to answer this. I think this is the sell. It is not fair for the Rams to have their own home locker room be the same in the Super Bowl.
I don't think it's fair. But
it's just the rhythm.
I think it doesn't matter at all.
I think, you and I are different on this. It is a disadvantage for the Bengals.
Okay.
All right. Buy or sell, Joe Burrow is sacked 5 or more times in the Super Bowl.
Sell. He's not sacked 5 times. I wish he would be. I don't think it's gonna happen.
I'm going to sell that as well. I don't think he is sacked 5 times
4
on that.
Good.
I think they learned. I don't know what they learned from the Titans. He's going to get hit more than 5 times. Woo. I put that as 5. I don't know. 5 or more.
I mean, it could. Okay, it depends how the game goes. If the Bengals are down a score or 2 late in the game and the Rams are able to pin their ears back and get after the quarterback, he's going to get crunched.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right. We have all heard of the Dallas Cowboys as America's team. Buy or sell. Bengals are now the America's team.
If you're asking me who most of America is going to be rooting for, then yes, I'll buy it. They're definitely the Bengals. Like, everyone loves an underdog. It's either a historic team like the Cowboys or the Yankees. Like, that's the teams people like, or the underdogs. So they're the two choices. And neither one of these teams are the storied franchise. So yes, the Bengals are America's team for this game.
Sure. I would agree. I was going to buy that. I think the majority of America will be rooting for the Bengals. You and I talked about just kind of the affluency that has allowed the Rams to essentially purchase and put together their team.
There's still salary cap for everybody, buddy.
Well, I also feel like so a little bit of a tangent on this. I think the Bengals have an opportunity. Let's say the Bengals win. They have an opportunity to start maybe a dynasty.
That's
Joe
true.
Burrow is in his rookie contract right now, and we all know what rookie contracts allow. They allow for good players to come to the teams, right? And so they have a window right now where if they win this, they can start building on this and then be a real force for years to come. I think the Bengals are probably going to be good for the next 10 years as long as Joe Burrow is healthy. I think they're going to be good.
Or they'll go the way of the Seahawks, where Russell Wilson gets a big contract and they have to cut a bunch of other players, and then Russell Wilson hogs his entire salary cap, and the Seahawks are no longer a power.
I'm really hoping that doesn't happen, and I don't think it will. But fingers crossed for this Bengals fan. All right. Buy or sell, Thorny. Sean McVay outcoaches himself in the Super Bowl.
That's a great question, man. He's such a good coach, but he overthinks things sometimes, man. The challenges in the NFC Championship game were terrible. Both of them.
Yep.
One of them was I could see why he would. I could totally buy that. I could totally buy Sean McVay trying to be too tricky and it biting him in the ass. Yes. He's a good coach.
I will buy that as well. I think he's going to outsmart himself when he's already the smartest guy in the room. So it's interesting too. You probably know this, that Zach Taylor is from the coaching tree of Sean McVay. That he got he was on the Rams staff.
See, I did not know that. Like, I'm telling you, man, like the NFL, I don't follow that near as close, man. I can name way more coaching trees in the FCS than I could in the NFL, which is pretty funny. But I did not know that. That's funny. What year was he on the staff?
Well, it would have been 3 years ago. So he came from
the Super Bowl season.
Yep.
Nice.
Exactly. He was Jared Goff's coach.
That was Jared Goff's best year, man. Every year after that was a decline. So maybe he was the magic man.
There you go. All right. I think we both bought that. Buy or sell, who day as a chant.
I'll buy it. Like I already told you, I think there'll be more Bengals fans there. Is that a chant that happens normally?
Oh yeah, who?
Well then, yes. I don't know if it's a chant or just like a motto. Like I said, I don't know. Do they chant that in the stadium? Like who day? Who? Like I don't know.
No, they say who day? Who they think can beat them Bengals? Who they think can beat them Bengals? Nobody. that is the song that they play, that they sing in after every victory inside the locker room.
Oh, so it has to be a victory. So no, they're not singing it if it requires a victory because they're going to lose.
But exactly. So it's become their credo. This is exactly their ethos. That they are the Who Dey Nation, not to be confused with the Who Dat Nation of the Saints.
Of course.
I don't want to get into that right now. I'm buying Who Dey all along. I know people who follow me on Twitter are probably sick of it because I'm just screaming in all caps Who Dey in these last couple of weeks. All right.
Yeah, just like interject yourself like Who Dey, and then you don't talk. Like there'll be a conversation that going on about something else. It'll just come in Who Dey. And then you're out. It's like, okay, there's Foley's Who Dey, and he's gone.
Foley visited Twitter with the Who Dey, and he's gone. All right. And then I just like everything Bengals right now. So if you follow me, you're just like, oh man, Foley just liked another thing Bengals. Good job. Anyways, all right. One guy we haven't talked about. Buy or sell, Thorny. Cooper Kupp over Jamar Chase.
Buy it all day long. Easy buy. He's having like the best receiving season in the NFL history, man.
Gosh, this one is hard.
Pure athletic talent? No, but he's the most productive receiver. Like, the numbers don't lie. And it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. He's their favorite target. He's the best target. He runs the best route. He has the best hands. And he's way better yards after the catch than you ever think he is. I saw something like 75% or more of his catches this year have been for like first downs. He's a first down machine. It's easy pick.
Yeah.
I never thought of like an Eastern Washington Eagle so much.
Right?
Love that guy.
That's what makes it so hard for me. If I wasn't a Bengals fan, if I was just an objective fan, I would pick Cup. I really would. So, but I'm a Bengals fan. I'm going Chase, so I'm going to sell this. I'm going to go Jamar Chase over Cooper Kupp. And I don't apologize.
All right, I'm going to ask you a question then. I thought of one while we're going here. Buy or sell Matthew Stafford's storyline over Joe Burrow's storyline?
Matthew Stafford came from Georgia, and he was drafted by the Detroit Lions, where he sucked. Well, he was a good quarterback.
He was a good quarterback. The team sucked.
He was a good quarterback. Yeah, the team sucked. He had Megatron for a long time. They did make one playoff game. They lost it. Joe Burrow, start of his career at Ohio State, was behind Justin Fields, saw the writing on the wall, transferred to Louisiana State University, LSU, became the Heisman Trophy winner, won the national championship, and now has a chance to be the only quarterback in the world ever to win the Heisman, the national championship, and a Super Bowl. I'm taking Joe Burrow all the way.
I think you're kind of missing the spirit of my question. Maybe I didn't phrase it correctly. It boils down to basically the veteran quarterback who's finally getting his chance versus the up-and-comer. Like, what's the better story?
I think it's still Joe Burrow. And here's why. Joe Burrow has completely changed the narrative of the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't feel that it is the same for Matthew Stafford. I don't feel like he's changed the complete narrative of the Rams. I feel like he's found a coach that knows how to accentuate his awesomeness. Matthew Stafford is a badass quarterback, no doubt. And I think he has a better supporting cast for sure. But Joe Burrow, the Bengals go as Joe Burrow goes. His confidence, his swagger. And Joe Burrow has this weird Macaulay Culkin-esque like weirdness about him. And he wears this, he comes on the scene and he wears these weird like bougie sunglasses sometimes and turtlenecks with
smoke some cigars,
blinged out like iced out chains, and you're just like, gosh, that's such a bad look.
Didn't someone ask him like,
I don't care,
are those diamonds real on his necklace? He says, I make too much money for those to be fake, or something along those lines.
Exactly. And
he's like a white Deion Sanders.
You're totally right. And you look at this kid and you're like, oh my gosh, that's just like, he makes it cool. It's so,
he is cool.
He's so cool.
I can't even argue.
He's so cool that it's cool. You're like, oh my gosh, those
so
sunglasses.
Stupid, but yet it works. How is this working?
Yes, exactly. He wore purple sunglasses in the press conference, and you're like, you think that's cool, Joe Burrow? And you're like, it's cool because it's Joe Burrow. It's just, he's just different, man. The guy is different. He's a transcendent talent, and just the way he carries himself, he's just like, F this narrative of we're like this underdog team. We're here to make noise. We're a good team. He's got everybody believing in him. So I get what you're saying. Like, if Stafford wins it, good on him, because like both of our quarterbacks deserve it. I think Stafford's window is closing. Like we've talked about. I'm still going Joe Burrow, man. I just think it's just too good for. He's too important for the whole thing. I think it's. I'm going Joe Burrow.
I mean, you're probably right. Obviously, as a Rams fan, I'd pick Matt Stafford. I have a soft spot for, and this goes back to my days as a Suns fan, for really talented players who have all time like statistics who can't win a ring.
Yeah,
I mean, Steve Nash, example number one of that. Never won it. I don't even know if he ever even made it. Like the Suns were just knocked out of the playoffs every single year when they had Mark Stoudemire and the 3-second thing and all that stuff. So
What about Andrew Whitworth, who went from the Bengals to the Rams now?
Yeah.
I mean, he's one of
he's
that's
40.
That's a storyline that we haven't talked about. Yeah.
Yeah, he was on the last Super Bowl team too. He's a solid player. I think this will be his last year if I had to guess. He actually he got hurt pretty bad this season and came back. Like that guy somehow, as old as he is, still like just comes back and bounces back. But I don't know. It's not like Matt Stafford is like the most likable guy ever. So like it depends on how likable the person is in this situation. Like I think Steve Nash was pretty likable. Matt Stafford I think is okay. But like if you're talking like Phillip Rivers, like I don't care if Phillip Rivers ever wins a Super Bowl. That guy was kind of a tool, right? So he had, I mean, one of the all-time greats. Don't get me wrong, but that guy was just a straight meathead. And I didn't care if he never got his shot. But Matt Stafford's likable enough. Like, all right. I mean, I have a soft spot for this kind of thing. So I think the storyline is better in that angle. I think Joel Burrow's story has got lots more more time to be written. Matt Stafford, like you said, this is the twilight. This is the best chance. The Rams lose a whole bunch this year, so I think Matt Stafford for me. But I think you got two quarterbacks and two storylines you can root for as a casual fan, or as a fan, as a fan of other teams in the NFL that aren't like direct rivals to either, like the Steelers or like that. The Niners. I'm sure there's no Niners rooting for Matt Stafford, but.
All right. I got one more buy or sell question, and then we'll be done with this episode. Buy or sell, Thorny, I will attend or host a Super Bowl party.
Well, actually, my parents are probably coming over, and they were going to come over anyway. That's been one of our biggest family traditions for a long time. It's been harder the last few years with COVID and everything, but yes, I'm having my parents over. That was decided before the Rams ever made it. So, yes, I'm hosting a Super Bowl party because we typically do. But even more exciting that I get to be in it. I get to root for a team, man. So much more exciting.
I did have a secondary question to that I didn't put down, but I'm going to ask it right now. Are you a guy that makes the food for the Super Bowl party, or do you traditionally go out and buy food for the Super Bowl party?
I like to make food, but I also don't like to miss the game. So I do a mix of like frozen garbage and some homemade stuff that I can get going ahead of time. I don't like to be like, all right, let's go make the wings right now, like in the middle of second quarter. Like I hate that. I don't want to miss any of the action. So,
gotcha.
So probably not like during other times when it's not the Rams, sure. But when the Rams are playing, man, I'm not going to miss a second of that game.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to buy that. I'm going to host a Super Bowl party. I think we're going to have my mother-in-law, who becomes some weird good luck charm. She was there for the 2018 Bobcat Grizz game. She was there on Sunday when we won the AFC Championship game. So my mother-in-law is going to come over, whether she likes it or not. I ordered Bengals not cups. I ordered Bengals napkins and plates today online. I ordered a Super Bowl sheet that you put over your, what was it, a tablecloth?
Yeah, sure.
And then I think I'm just gonna go to Buffalo Wild Wings and get a whole bunch of wings to bring back to the house, and then set up shop and just enjoy the game.
That sounds good, man. Like wings are the one thing I can easily make because all I gotta do is like throw them in the oven, bake them, and then toss them with a sauce. That one's easy. But yeah, nothing wrong with Buffalo Wild Wings. So yeah, good plan, man. I need to get some dang it, there I went. Right. I need to get some Ram decor up in here. I might still have the Marshall Falk beanie baby I had.
Woo!
I actually remember him being like my little good luck charm in the first Super Bowl, the Super Bowl win in 1999. Like he was my little buddy. I had him on the couch. I was in high school. I bet I could dig him out. He might have to make a reappearance because if I find him, it's over for you.
It's over.
I don't know where he is, but he might be in a box in the garage. I'm pretty sure he's still around.
Well, nonetheless, I'm just stoked that both of our teams in it, and I'm actually, having this conversation with you. If the Rams win, I'm going to be happy for you.
I'll be super happy. If the
Bengals win, I know you'll be.
I don't
exactly. So
like I couldn't think of a better team to lose to.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Let's get out of here, man. It's been a long one.
Score prediction. You delayed it, so now we got to do it at the very end here.
So 30. Let's see. It's 31 a score that people make in football. I was going to go like 31-28 Bengals.
I was thinking 31-27 Rams. I had the exact same number, 31, as the winning score. I thought you said it wasn't going to be like that. Is high scoring for the NFL. What are you talking about? That's like 60 combined points almost.
So Evan Money McPherson has made three game winning field goals in this. Well, I guess not in the Raiders. We beat them 26-19. So,
you think it comes down to that again?
Surprised I wouldn't be surprised.
Better not come down.
I hope not.
To Matt Gay has been not very good. He made the kick that won the game against the Bucks, but that was also a pretty easy shot. He also was short on a 47-yard field goal in that game, which I don't know I don't know how you do that as an NFL kicker. That's not good.
Yeah.
He's been if it comes down to like a kick, man, I like your kicker a lot better than the Rams. So special teams.
Well, we drafted a kicker. That's why you draft a kicker right
there you go. All right, so I'm on 31-27. You're 31-28 from our respective teams. That's kind of funny. Great minds think alike, I guess. At least in terms of the winning score. The winning score of the winning team being 31 points.
Woo! Day. All right, buddy. Get us out of here.
Whose house? Rams' house. That's what the Rams chant. All right, man. Well, thanks, everyone, for listening. If you're still listening to this, thanks for listening to our random NFL, well, not random, but our NFL chat, Rams versus Bengals. How cool is it that we both have a team in this game? We both have the Bobcats. Just a crazy year, man. It's just a lot of fun. Thanks, everyone, for listening. As always, you can find us on Twitter, RRCatcast. You can find us on the internet, rrcatcast.com. You can always shoot us an email at rrcatcast@gmail.com. I want to thank Jeremiah Johnson, our sponsor, one last time, and Foley. Let's get out of here with Go Cats and Go Rams.
Go Cats. Hooday.